Hey, Fort Wayne, welcome to another episode of Fort Wayne Footy as we get things situated here. Dustin keeps popping in and out of our studio. Welcome back, Dustin. Glad to have you tonight. Man, we're excited about the show tonight. We've got a lot to talk about with high school season getting started and the college soccer preseason going on. I know each of us attended a couple matches, or at least one match over the weekend that we, are invested in personally. Whether we're a coach or we've got kids playing, but I know there's a lot of other soccer that we were exposed to this weekend. Lots of good stuff happening on the high school soccer fields. We had some big matchups this very first weekend of the season for both boys and girls that we're going to get into a little bit tonight. First, I want to introduce the faces, if you're watching live, that you are seeing here on the screen. And if you're not watching live, we would invite you to watch live every Sunday night at 9 p.m. But if you can't, listen to us later in the week on your favorite podcast directory. My name's Brian. I'm the host of the show. And I'm back this week. I was out last week. Dustin kind of handled business for us last week, and Dustin is back on the program tonight. Dustin, how you doing, man?
I'm very grateful that you are back and I can hand over the reins back to you, man. Yeah, it was a good week, but I'm excited to talk about some high school. I'm excited about the interview that you did this week, so that we'll get later on. I'm excited to have everybody here and kind of talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, all of that this week.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the interview with Oliver Gage, Fort Wayne FC's sporting director. So I did a 40-minute interview with him earlier this week that will be live for everyone following tonight's show. It was on Patreon. So if you're interested in joining Patreon and getting some, early looks at some of these interviews that we do, invite you to join us over there. We'll put the link in the description here. So thanks for mentioning that, Dustin. Yeah. You did a fantastic job last week, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
I think my favorite part of the show was at the end when you were just nodding your head while Micah and Autumn were talking, and you told me later, like, I had no idea.
I couldn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. Micah talked for an entire probably like 1 minute, and I just nodded my head, acting like I knew what he was talking about, hoping he wasn't saying anything weird or inappropriate at all.
I think we only had one awkward pause. There's one awkward pause where I'm like, can Dustin hear me? Is he not going to say anything?
we got it fixed.
All that bad stuff you were saying about him, he just had a smile on his face and on his head, right?
I was like, he could have been saying, this has been a terrible week. This was a horrible podcast. And I'd have just been like, yep, you're right.
Thankfully, he didn't. And that other voice you heard is Micah Middendorf. Micah, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. I was thinking about sitting this one out, but this is a highlight of my week. So I'm glad to be here. Glad that you're back, Brian. But Dustin, you did great.
I don't know what that says about Dustin, but glad to be back here. And the other face that you may see on the screen is not Autumn with a haircut. This is Paul Johnson. Joining the program tonight. He was hanging out backstage last week, I think, just listening in and seeing how things run. And he's here joining us as one of our co-hosts tonight. Paul, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Fan of the show. First time on. Excited, last week, this week. A lot of soccer ramping up locally, domestically, internationally. So just an exciting time of year for soccer.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, Paul, you've got an investment in one of the girls' teams here in Fort Wayne as your daughter plays, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Paul's just been around the game for a long time. He's a trainer over at Fort Wayne Sport Club as well. Just really knowledgeable guy. We met a few weeks ago and talked through soccer in the area and talked through the show. So glad to have you on for the first time, Paul. Thanks for being here.
And not the last.
We got to wait till the end of the show.
Okay, we'll give it some
Dustin,
contract. The ink is still wet.
Look.
That's right. Oh, man. Well, hey, tonight's show is brought to you by our sponsor, OmniSource. Let me get their little logo up here on the screen. OmniSource is North America's largest processors, distributors, and managers of scrap and secondary metals. They're based right here in Fort Wayne. So OmniSource, we appreciate you, your sponsorship of the show, what you do in Fort Wayne and around Fort Wayne. And I was at the Indiana Tech game the other night and saw the Omnisource sign hanging on their fence as a sponsor of soccer at Indiana Tech. So
That's awesome.
Glad to be a part of. Glad you're a part of the soccer community, not just with Fort Wayne Footy, but with some area soccer programs. Let's get into this a little bit. I talked about Patreon, right? We have our first paid Patreon supporter in Christina Copeland. Shout out to Christina for being a sponsor over on Patreon or a supporter over on Patreon. She got to see the interview that we did with Oliver Gage earlier this week because she is a paid patron supporter. So if you are interested, as I mentioned earlier, in seeing any of our interviews that we do ahead of time, we're going to do some things with Indiana Tech this week that we will tell you about a little bit later. If you're interested in seeing any of that content ahead of time, early access to that sort of thing, join us over on Patreon. We've got $5 and $10 a month support options, and we have a $30 no frills. You just want to support the show. You don't care about anything else. You just want to show us some love, help us get the equipment we need for the live streams and the live shows that we plan to do later this year. Join us over there. Some of you had asked, we had talked about last week, Dustin, I think you had mentioned the merch sales through 18 Threads. I had the date wrong, and that's on me. They told me August 18th was kind of their target date to start getting things together. I thought that was Friday last week. I wasn't looking ahead. That's actually tomorrow. And I know they've been working on things. Some of you have gotten emails and phone calls that, there's something you ordered was out of stock and trying to replace that. So hopefully that will all be done soon. And again, as we say every week, once we started promoting stuff, we can't wait to see all of you wearing our faces all over town. We would love for you, whether it's that shirt or something else, we'd love for you to just take some pictures, tag us in them, post them on social media. It's a way to help us get the word out a little bit more about the show. And that said, we just hit 100 subscribers. Andy Stout from Fort Wayne Sport Club was our 100th subscriber.
Nice.
over on YouTube. So thanks for subscribing and helping us get that going. All right. We've got some people joining us in the chat. Raquel Briscoe. Let me throw
Yes.
up here. Excited for the show tonight. We are too, and we are excited that you are tuning in. We saw Ari's social media stuff in his Butler University gear that he was posting. So I know he's in preseason. He's got some stuff going on. And guys, I don't know about you, but I'd love to make it down there to see a game.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Right? That was really exciting there, Dustin. Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Well, I don't know. Yes, absolutely.
There it is.
No, I would love to watch him play. Anytime he plays, I would love to watch him play. So especially, at that level, absolutely.
Yeah, that yellow kit for sure, Ryan. If you missed the pictures, they're still up there. Hit up Ari Briscoe on Instagram. You'll see a lot of the cool, the kits that they're wearing and his preseason, media photos and all that stuff. Anyway, we could talk about that the rest of the show, but we're not going to. I want to talk some high school soccer. Last week we had a high school soccer preview show. We had a couple guests on that gave us a preview of some of the teams in the area and some of the players in the area. And then on Tuesday, I think it was, the Indiana Soccer Coaches Association, the state rankings came out. And it was top 20 in each class, boys and girls. And I want to just talk through that a little bit with you guys. You guys all got a chance to look at those?
Yep.
All right. Let's start with the boys here. We have at the top of the rankings, I think I just closed my window. There we go. We have Hamilton Southeastern. No, that's the girls. My bad. The boys, Harrison, Hamilton Southeastern at number 2. We have Center Grove. Fort Wayne Carroll makes number 4 on the list. Let's pause there for a second because I know, Dustin, you are tied in there in the Carroll district.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that ranking? Number 4 in the state preseason.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. I think it's hard to know. I mean, I give like very little weight to what this is. To be completely honest, I mean, you're just guessing. You don't even when you're doing this, it's kind of like, well, who's coming back, that kind of thing. I mean, they played really well yesterday. We'll talk about it obviously here in a little bit. They looked good. But yeah, I mean, awesome. That's great that they're up there. I'd love to see them make a run, to be completely honest. But who knows? You know, like, I mean, the season's long. We've got a long way to go. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, before we go any farther on the list, Micah, as a high school soccer coach on the girls' side, how much weight do you give to a preseason ranking system?
None at all.
Yeah, that's what I
The
figured.
reality of just high school soccer, that there's so much turnover year over year. You know, like for instance, we lost Reagan Mattel at Concordia. She was all conference player of the year. That's a big loss for us. We have to replace, 25 goals, 10 assists. That's a huge loss. And I'm not sure if other teams are losing the same amount of goals. So, yeah, it's great to say, hey, we're preseason number one, but then you have to prove it the rest of the year.
Right.
And teams are coming after you just for that reason. So you're going to get their best every single day.
Yeah.
So to be fair, this is, and none of us agree, Paul, unless you have other thoughts on preseason high school rankings.
Bulletin board material is all
Yeah.
I can say, and I'd rather not be too high because, like Micah said, you just got to target.
Yeah. So to be fair, none of us put a lot of weight in these preseason rankings because we've got kids that played. We know the turnover. We know some of these teams that lost a lot of players, and we know some teams that have a lot of strong players that maybe weren't talked about maybe last week on the program. And so obviously, again, bulletin board material, but it is fun, I think, for kids to see their school up there and go, oh, somebody, showing us a little love. But
Respect. Yeah.
yeah, for those that aren't, it gives them something to fight for. So we're not throwing this out there like, hey, this is how it's going to be, right? But it is material for us to talk a little bit about here. So as I go down that list, I'm focusing mostly on Fort Wayne area teams. We got Carroll at number 4 on the boys' side. This is 3A, by the way. We have, it looks like Goshen and Warsaw are the next closest to us in Fort Wayne, sitting at 14 and 15. So not a lot of Fort Wayne teams on this high school boys 3A list in the top 20. Curious, as you guys look around the landscape of Fort Wayne boys soccer, do you think there might be a few other Fort Wayne teams that break into this top 20, top 10, even as early on in the season here?
I'll be completely honest. When it comes down to rankings and it comes down to like a statewide ranking, I think Fort Wayne gets gypped a lot, whether it be football, soccer, anything. I think Fort Wayne, they automatically put all of those indie teams a little bit higher than they do the Fort Wayne teams, and sometimes rightfully so. They're huge schools. They've got a lot of talent coming from them. They got the pull from other schools to bring them in. But yeah, I do think that there are going to be some Fort Wayne teams that are going to jump into that top 20 by the end, maybe 2-3 weeks in. And so again, very little weight to what this means. I think there's some good talent out there that's probably gonna shake things up a little bit.
Yeah. Moving on to the 2A list, we have Fort Wayne Concordia rounding out the top of that list, or starting out that list. Micah, I know you coach on the girls' side there at Concordia. Have you seen the boys train? How are they looking? I know you got a son that plays there. How are they looking this year?
Yeah, I mean, they're looking solid. What they lost last year, I was looking at some of their young kids coming off the JV team, and then their incoming group of freshmen. They have some quality players there, so it's going to be fun to watch them. But a game coming up right away on Tuesday to start off the season, it's Concordia versus Bishop Luers, and Bishop Luers came in at 7. So that's a really early test for both those teams to really see what they're capable of.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm glad you mentioned Bishop Luers at 7. We've got Leo sitting at 13 there. Dwenger at 15 on that list. And next closest maybe is West Noble at 20. And I know they had a game this week that they didn't fare so well in, that we'll talk about a little bit later. 1A schools, Let's see. Here in the Fort Wayne area, we have Blackhawk Christian sitting at 7. We have, I think that's about it from the Fort Wayne area. There may be some closer, Westview in Northeast Indiana there, sitting at number 5 in 1A. So again, we've got some top soccer here, and there are teams that none of us have mentioned that aren't on that list. I think there's a few. If you had to guess, I would guess 2 or 3 teams in the Fort Wayne area break into at least the top 20 once these things round out, right? This is based on end of season last year, what they expect and anticipate this year. Some players have maybe moved away. Some players have moved into the district. Some of these teams have, exchange students last year, or maybe they've got new exchange so players rotate through. We understand that. So this is not an end all be all list, but I would expect couple of Fort Wayne teams breaking into at least the top 20, if not the top 10 here in the next week, based on performances that we saw on Saturday, that we'll, like I said, we'll get into here in a minute. Let's flip over to the girls' side, and we have Hamilton Southeastern number 1 there, Noblesville, Carmel. Like, we've got a lot of indie schools there. We have Homestead sitting at number 10 as the first Fort Wayne school on that list. Paul, how you feeling about that?
Yeah, like I said, I'd rather not be ranked too high with a target on our back, but we'd love the chance. My daughter, in transparency, she's a junior at Homestead, so I know the team well. So we'd love the chance to prove ourselves and move on up there. We don't play, I think, hardly many of those teams above us during the season, but we will play several of them in that top 20. So we'll have a chance to prove ourselves. I think we have a strong squad returning from last year. Only a few girls, seniors left, so. And some solid freshmen coming in.
Yeah, young team, but a strong team. I've seen them out there training, and they look pretty good there. So I think that's a pretty accurate, probably preseason ranking. We'll see how things go. We moved down that list a little bit. We got Carroll sitting at 15. Carroll girls sitting at 15, and so just a couple in the 3A girls sitting in the top 20 on that list. We look at the 2A schools, and I'm looking down that list. We've got Dwenger sitting at 4. They start next Saturday, I believe. Is that right? The first match? I could be wrong there. Yeah. Moving on down, Concordia Lutheran there makes the list. Number 14. Micah, how you feeling?
I'm fine with it. I would much rather be unranked than ranked. And I think 14 is probably a fair spot for us. You look at our results against the other Fort Wayne teams. We were 1-1 against Dwenger last year. We were 0-2 against Belmont. Last game went into PKs in the regional semis. So, it's probably fair. So I'm fine with it. I think we're going to surprise a lot of those teams, though. So I'm looking at Belmont. Okay, they're ranked higher than us. I have that match circled on our calendar.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I overlooked Belmont there in the greater Fort Wayne area. And then looking down at the 1A schools, I don't see no, that's Indy Christian. I don't see any Fort Wayne schools on the 1A list there. So yeah, maybe we may see a few surprise people. So guys, as you look down that list, right? I don't want to dwell on this too much, but if you could guess one school maybe that's not on that list, boys or girls, any class, who do you think breaks into that and surprises people early on this season?
I think on the girls' side, Blackhawk Christian. I think they're poised to have a pretty good year. Got a new coach two years ago. Last year was his first year. Did some really good things with the girls. Saw improvement from beginning of the year to end of the year. So I'd be interested to see where they end up as the year goes on. I'm trying to think what other 3A schools we have in the area besides Blackhawk. Maybe Culver. They might be 2A though.
Yeah.
Well, with the girls, you have Leo, who's 2A, but they got promoted up. This is their second year now playing 3A, so they're kind of in a tricky spot where I think they're a strong 2A, but the fact that they got moved up, they're not going to be on the 2A list here.
And they can stay 3A as long they can just stay up there. As long as they're not in my sectional, they can stay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leo's got some good players. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them creep up on that list there in 3A. People just don't know what to expect of them, I think, right now in moving divisions. up just recently. So, yeah, I expect them to move up. I will say this. Surprised, maybe not surprised. Unbiased opinion here. Full disclosure, I have a son that plays at Homestead, and I coach the goalkeepers at Homestead. I think Homestead's got a good team that's not on this list, and that's totally fine with me. I think they're going to come out and surprise some people. Our first game of the season didn't go so well. This week, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We had some bad breaks go the other team's way, and our breaks didn't go our way. But they played a really good game against Penn. The result didn't show it, but I expect Homestead to be a team to battle it out this year with the likes of Carroll in the area. So, Dustin, any teams that you think maybe would move up that list or down that list, or maybe aren't even on that list?
I was honestly, before you said it, I was gonna let you slide and not have to talk about your school and your son.
Well, forget I said anything. Go ahead. Go on, keep talking.
No, I think I think again, you throw in all of these, indie schools. I think Concord was a good game for Carroll last year, so it'll be interesting to see what that ends up being this year. But I think that I think Homestead should always be in the mix and talking about it, at least in the top 20, to be completely honest. I mean, with the talent that they have there's no reason that they shouldn't. That's what I kind of meant when I was saying, the indie schools always get more love than the Fort Wayne schools. And then again, when it comes down to sectionals and regionals, there's some tough competition up north as well, and not just down south. And so, you think about Warsaw. Warsaw's always been a good team. They always pull in good talent. The Carroll game against Warsaw yesterday was a good game. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I think leaving Homestead out of the top 20 was a mistake, but I think again, I'm not surprised that they did that because it happens often. So, but I think they'll prove themselves.
Make us fight for it, man.
Yeah,
make us fight for it.
I'd rather be there than at 4. To be completely
you're at
honest.
The top, and you got a target on your back. I know Homestead's already talking. They're looking at Carroll and going, "Oh my gosh, they're sitting at number 4. They don't deserve that, right?" You know that rivalry is healthy, it's fun, and we'll see how that plays out later in the season.
Yeah.
So, Paul, any surprises?
Well, I was going to say, rankings are fun. Like what do they do come the postseason seeding and all that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just for fun.
Yeah, it is for fun.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the rankings then. Let's talk about some of the games that were played this weekend. I mentioned I'll start since I mentioned the Homestead game. Homestead played Penn up at Penn this last week and lost 4-1. And I will say, being there watching the game, Homestead played a solid game, and the score doesn't reflect that. And I know if you look at that and go, "Oh boy, no, they didn't." You're just a coach and you're talking about it. But now, honestly, if first half possession wise, I'd say Homestead probably had 60 to 70% possession of the game, 5 or 6 good chances in on goal that just didn't go our way. And second half was a different story. Penn brought it, some balls over the top that beat our back line. And I think all 4 of their goals, if I remember correctly, were all breakaways. They countered really well, and we just weren't prepared for the counterattack there. And so the score doesn't tell the whole story of the game. Penn, I know, is ranked 20 on that, or 15 or something on that list.
20,
so, yeah. The result doesn't show, I don't think, the way the game actually was played, but that's why you play the games. That's why the rankings don't matter. You got to get out there and play. Carroll and Warsaw played a tough match there. Dustin, you were at that one. Tell us a little bit about that match.
Yeah, so I was there just for the beginning of the game, but was getting updates about every 5 minutes as to how the game was going from fellow parents and my son. But yeah, Carroll went down early. They were down. They had to fight back. It was 3-2, and then we had 2 PKs. Warsaw. Every time we play Warsaw, Warsaw is extremely aggressive, extremely physical when it comes down to it. And 2 times in the box, aggressive plays, handball, turned into 2 PKs. So Carroll pulled out the win 4-3 at Warsaw. Huge. Warsaw took us out in regionals last year, so it was a huge win for us.
Yeah.
JV won 1-0. That's the first time in 10 years JV's beat Warsaw's JV. So huge thing there. But big win. I mean, you start out the season playing a team that's always been a really decent and good team. To come away with a win, no matter how it comes about or how you get that win, is huge. So good confidence boost. Again, I feel like first game, first week, everyone still has the jitters. They still are not conditioned to playing soccer for a full game. So who knows what will happen moving forward, but it's always good to come out with a W, especially when you're I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of going to Warsaw for any sporting events whatsoever. And I say that with all love. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law live up there, but it's never an easy game no matter what. So to come away with the win's huge.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. That's, I know you guys start with them the last couple seasons, which is, it's a tough game to start.
It is.
Like Homestead plays Penn to start. It's not like college football where you start, like the big schools start with the really small schools and run up the score. You know, like we're starting with the top schools in the area. And so it's a real test to see where are we and where do we need to be for both schools that are on the pitch at that time.
Right.
Some of these games I noticed were like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Is that a great way to start? You know, you just had like your first full week of school.
Right.
And you're like, all right, you're going to travel and play another game. That's not easy.
Here you go. Yeah.
And it was like 90 something degrees.
It was hot. It was miserable.
Their coach
as a fan, it was miserable. The boys, I can't even imagine.
Oh man, they were guys that never come out were asking to come out.
Yep.
Just, I need some water, coach. I need to stretch out, coach. I'm cramping. I need more water. Like it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll say this, Penn's coach, I was talking to him pregame and he came over. He goes, "Are you guys cool with like hydration breaks halfway through each half?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely." And he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that. We're wearing black. It's going to be hot." And I'm like, "Oh, never mind. Let's skip the hydration."
Nope, you don't get one.
But no, the boys needed it. I think coaches and parents needed it too. It was a hot one this last week. Other area games, we had Leo. I think Leo had a couple games, it looks like, this weekend on Saturday.
Both Saturday, it looks like.
1 to a 0-0 draw, and one they won 3-0. Blackhawk, here's one that was surprising based on the conversation last week, and you know, West Noble being sneaky good sometimes, losing 5-0 to Blackhawk Christian this last weekend. And now Blackhawk is probably they're kind of a sleeper school, like in the sense that they're good. You don't expect them to be, maybe. They took it to us last year again on the counter attack and had some, you know, good crosses and headers into the goal. But they're a sneaky good team. I expect them to move up a little bit more this year.
Yeah, they have some good players. They got a good coach. He always puts good players out on that field. So, I mean, I was shocked at the score. I mean, I wasn't shocked that they won, but I was shocked at the score. And it'll be interesting. Carroll plays West Noble on Tuesday, so it'll be interesting to see how they shape up.
Yeah. If you were at any other games, we'll talk about the women's games here in just a moment. But if you're listening, you were at any of the other games or had any other games that like were on your radar that we haven't touched on tonight, drop those in the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the games that you saw and the teams that you think maybe are going to be strong and surprise some people, or some teams that maybe like you know they lost some people and they're not going to be maybe as strong as they were last year. So drop your thoughts here in the chat. Here we go. South Adams girls. Andy says fought the heat in all black on 90+ surf. Yeah, that was hot, man. That's hot against Belmont. So kudos to South Adams girls and the Belmont game out there. Yeah, keep those coming. Let's flip over to the girls' side here. In Fort Wayne, I know we've got a coach and we got a parent of the girls' side. What did you guys see? What did you experience? And what games maybe did you have your eyes on this weekend?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I was looking at that Canterbury game. We open our season with them on Tuesday. And also, I mean, we like autumn so I want to see her results. So didn't quite go her way, and I'd love to hear her take on it. And she admittedly said it's a rebuilding year for them, but there's always going to be some players coming through that Canterbury program. So,
and that was a 4-0 loss to Elkhart Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about Elkhart Christian. I haven't watched them. I don't know what they have out there. So, but then I'm looking at the Leo result as well. We have Leo coming up in a couple weeks, so I think deservedly so. They beat Westview 3-0. So first win for that coaching staff out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did the Homestead girls play this weekend? I wasn't sure.
No, we just had a scrimmage versus Penn earlier in the week. We kick off our season tomorrow versus Leo, and Leo gets to play Homestead Monday, and then they get to play Carroll on Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah.
So Leo's gonna have a pretty kind of tough start to their season, and so is Homestead. We have 4 games in the next 6 days because they're doing the St. Joe tournament Friday evening and Saturday morning. So it's a rapid start for us as well.
Yeah.
I have 4 games this week. I go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So gave my athletic
can't play Sunday.
thumbs up on that one. Yeah. So
well, I have 6 games this week. No, I'm just kidding. I just thought we were one up in each other.
Yeah.
I guess if we're being honest, I got JV and varsity games, so there you go. Anyway, yeah, for sure. Like it's hard to look at the score. You talk about the Elkhart Christian and Canterbury game. It's hard to look at the score and know the full story of the season. We got Mitch here in the chat saying, "Don't sleep on Dwenger. Both boys and girls could do some damage." Absolutely, I think Dwenger always has solid teams. They're well coached, and they've got some solid players on those teams. And so, yeah, definitely don't sleep on them. I think we've got some really, really good teams in the area, again, that don't always get the recognition, but you let it play out on the field and see where these teams end up in sectionals and regionals late in the season. Some games to look at coming up here. We'll talk about a few others later. Andy throws out there Concordia boys at Blackhawk Christian on Saturday, next Saturday, right? The 23rd. At 6:30 if you're interested in checking that out. And yeah, for sure, we've got Silently Strong in here saying can't always underestimate the smaller schools.
For sure.
No doubt. I think that's why Leo is where they're at in 3A. They're a smaller school, but they just ran the table and beating a lot of the bigger schools in the area. And so they're in a spot, they put themselves in a spot to challenge each year now some of those bigger schools. So yeah, no doubt there.
I need to figure out how Blackhawk keeps getting all these evening games. They had a 5 o'clock game this week and a 6:30 game next week. Like, come on. I'm gonna have to give my buddies a hard time to have their boys and girls that play over there. Evening games are way cooler than the 93-degree 11 o'clock game.
It is weird though. Like most of our games are in the evening. I don't know why we started the season, with the noon game. It's really strange.
Yeah.
Andy's back in the chat. Girls Heritage versus Jay County Open, the ACAC on Thursday of this week. So yeah, lots of good games coming up. We'll talk about later in the show some of the ones that we've got our eyes on. I want to get to some of the college soccer. And then we've got some clips. I mentioned earlier, we talked to Oliver Gage from Fort Wayne FC earlier this week. We have some clips I want to get to show you here tonight. Some of that interview that we had. We will post the full interview on YouTube immediately following tonight's show. So check that out. And like I said, if you're interested in seeing those, they will always be available. But if you're interested in seeing those early before we post them publicly, check us out on Patreon, and we'll post that link in the description here too. So college is getting ready to start. College soccer is getting ready to start as well. We've got some good teams in the area that we have our eyes on. Their preseason scrimmages happened this last week. Friday night, Indiana Tech played Goshen. Goshen was here in town, playing a pretty tough Indiana Tech team. It was a battle, guys. I went just to take some pictures. I posted them on our Instagram earlier this week. Just some photos from that match. It was tough, man. It was hot. The turf is always hotter than just sitting in the stands there, and definitely you're running around. And it was a hard fought match. But I gotta say this: I got there late in the first half and watched the whole second half. Goshen brought it and moments in the second half. And Tech's goalkeeper that played the second half, Alex Kyriakides, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, kept them in the match. He made some phenomenal saves late in that match and kept them in the game. So I'm always, as a goalkeeper, I'm always watching good goalkeeper play, and made some phenomenal saves to keep them in that. It was fun to watch. We had Purdue Fort Wayne over there at Bowling Green State University. Micah, you were looking at that score earlier. Did you track that down? I wasn't.
It looks like it was an exhibition, so they can't put that on their website.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure what. There's a YouTube link for it. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Okay. But we know, we know some of the players from Purdue Fort Wayne, some of the coaches, like they're local, but we had, from Fort Wayne FC, from Northrop High School, a player head over there playing on not playing yet, I don't think, with his bum knee
ACL.
there.
Yeah.
What's that?
ACL.
Yeah, with the ACL tear, but we'll be playing for Bowling Green State University this year. So excited to see that his recovery and see how that team does. I'm sure we've got some others in the area playing over there and in other local schools. Paul, you had some, it looks like your family's going to be attending one of the bigger games coming up here this week.
So actually today we thought we'd catch out some localish soccer. So we went down to Ball State. They were hosting Purdue. So a lot of people from Fort Wayne can relate to those two schools.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was super hot. You can tell I look like I baked today, but it really was kind of local because we ran into some people we know. I also ran into two girls who had like Fort Wayne United jerseys on, and I heard a conversation where the dads are like, "Well, nothing going on this weekend for us, so we wanted to come down and catch a game." So
Nice.
it's great. It's a lot of fun. ESPN Plus is showing a lot of college soccer games now, which is great. We just watched UNC lose to Tennessee 2-0, which was huge this week. But to go watch it live, you don't appreciate the speed, the physicality which these girls play. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. we must have a Ball State fan here. Chirp in the chat. Silently Strong says, yeah. No, I'm excited. Like, it was fun being on the sideline at the Tech game, and to have quality teams, quality players this close. Can't wait to get out to see Purdue Fort Wayne play. Some of the women's teams in the area play. I think will be a lot of fun this year, and just tracking that down. On that note, I will be out at Indiana Tech's training session later this week. We're going to get a couple of interviews, get some footage of the guys out there training as they're preparing for some big games coming up here. And again, we'll post all of that early access on Patreon. Looking forward to getting to know their team and Coach Keelan Barker, who is an assistant coach at Fort Wayne FC. Some of you know him from there. Getting to know him and the coaching staff later this week will be a lot of fun. So if you're interested in getting to know some of the area teams better, we're going to get out there a little bit more. Talk to Nick Potter, the men's coach at Huntington University, earlier this week too. And so we'll do a feature down there too. So if there are teams in the area that you just love to know more about and see us do some features on, let us know that in the chat or send us an email to info@fortwaynefooty.com, and we'll do our best to get out there and feature some area schools, some area coaches, and some area players that are really standouts this season as it progresses.
Brian, I just want to say that I'm really glad that you had to try and pronounce that name. You did an excellent job on that, but I'm glad it was you and not us.
Yeah, well, that's the job of the host, right? You just you do it well or you don't do it well. You just got to throw it out there. So
what people don't know is you practicing it beforehand, and we had no clue what you were practicing, and we thought you were speaking a different language. So that's why you saw us all laugh. That's why you saw the three of us laugh as you were saying that name.
Yeah. I was looking ahead at the rundown, and I was like, "Hey, I went to the Tech match," and then I just started trying to pronounce that name, and you were like, is he speaking in tongues? What is happening here? No, I was just trying to pronounce a name. I believe he's from Cyprus, if I have that correct. Anyway, hey, let's transition. I want to play some of these clips from Oliver Gage. That was such a fun interview. And unfortunately, I know none of you were able to join me. It was in the middle of the day. He was actually over I believe in Sheffield, in England with his family. And so we had to work out the timing. It was morning here and afternoon for him when he had a few moments. And so it was a fun interview. It will be fully released publicly immediately following tonight's show. If you're watching later in the week, maybe you've already seen it. It'll be on our YouTube channel. So check that out, and we'll post the audio maybe later on in the week. This first question, I want to just share a couple of these clips. The first question I asked him, well, I think the question is part of the clip. So I'll just play it, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we go.
Loudon, I mean, if you look at it logically.
What was the attraction to Fort Wayne FC as you looked around the landscape of U.S. soccer and your opportunities you had?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate that when news broke of my my leaving Loudon, I mean, if you look at it logically, you got someone that's come in to help a club that have never made the playoffs in 6 years and have very often been quite literally bottom of the league. And within 18 months, they are top of the league after 8 games and on a shoestring budget still. All that being said, like, it means I had options, you know, USL Championship options over here in England, options even in MLS to go and take on a role. I think the thing that really, really helped was when we were going through the process of first of all applying for the job or letting Fort Wayne know that I would be interested. And then when the kind of tables turned and the club was coming after me to try and kind of get me to commit to the project, you know, the stadium renderings I was shown and the project and meeting Mark and DeMarcus Beasley, like that was all great. And I had no doubt about the club and whether or not the football side of the project was going to be fine. But I think, so that was kind of like the football box had been ticked for me. And then what really got it over the line was Mark and DeMarcus traveled from Fort Wayne to Washington, D.C. to meet me and have lunch with me. They came to me, you know, and they did what I would call all the hard work, which for someone with Mark's schedule and Mark's affluence is rare, is very, very rare. I mean, I rub shoulders with club owners, and it's not very often they're willing to take, you know, even a couple of hours out of their schedule, let alone a full day to fly to Washington, D.C. and meet me. So the fact that they did that and wanted to kind of break bread over lunch and get to know me as a person, instead of just saying like, you know, book a flight, come see us at the offices here, and, you know, hopefully it all sticks. And, you know, Mark finishes one meeting, pops into a meeting with me, and then goes to his next one.
Right.
The fact that they purposefully kind of came and recruited me almost and kind of put that human touch on it went a really long way. And we scheduled an hour kind of working lunch session or whatever that ended up being about 3 hours in the end, which is always a good sign, you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
And at the end of it, you know, I left kind of being convinced that these were the right people to work with, not just the right project in terms of football, you know. So
all right. Like I said, it was a super fun interview, and that was an intriguing question that I couldn't wait to ask him. If you don't know, some of his background is he was with Houston in Major League Soccer for a little while. He got an opportunity to go to the Canadian Premier League and help start the league and start some teams there. So he's director of football or sporting director there for the Canadian Premier League, which is crazy, right? And then he talks about that in the interview, how he ended up there and what that looked like. And then from there was at Loudoun United in USL Championship in Virginia. And again, talked about in that interview how that team just turned around, a team that I think for 6 straight years hasn't made the playoffs. They were on an 8-game win streak and probably going to go to their first playoff match this year. And now the success he's had and the options that he's landed in Fort Wayne. And I was curious why Fort Wayne, and he just shared his answer in that clip. He talks more about it in the full interview. But as you guys listen to that, any thoughts or about Oliver, about his reasoning about being here in Fort Wayne?
I think didn't we talk about at the beginning of the when we first started this podcast about how amazing and down to earth that the guys in the front office are with Fort Wayne FC. So to hear that Mark and DeMarcus flew out there and like met with him for 3 hours speaks volumes, not only to him, but speaks volumes to the team in general. I think, again, like he said, like to have somebody that of Mark's caliber to fly, to meet with him, to not say, hey, just come in here and then meet with him, you know, for 20 minutes and say, okay, well, if it works out, it works out, to actually show a vested interest in wanting to get him here. I think that just shows what the team is about. That shows what Fort Wayne FC stands for. And I think that's it's rare to find. If I had to take a guess, I would imagine that that's not something that's normal, which is probably why it stuck out so much to him.
Yeah, I think it shows, and we talked about it, especially as like Fort Wayne FC built the roster for this USL2 team. Like they're doing it the right way, getting the right people, spending money in the right areas, building the stadium. I think it just shows that Mark, Scott Sprout in the front office, like they don't do anything half. Like it's 100% in. So I think this just gives us a little more extra to really be excited about this team coming here.
Yeah. You know, I was after that interview, it reminded me, we talked early on in the season about the ambition of the front office, right? And they want to do things well. They want to get the right people here. And they went after the best that they could find. And it wasn't just the best that they could find. It was one of the best candidates out there for any position in any league. And the fact that we landed him here shows a lot that, you know, they were willing to, you know, put the effort in to do that. And like you said, Dustin, it meant a lot to him, which probably means it's not very normal that a team would go out of their way like that. And so if you're interested, like I said, this full interview will be posted immediately following tonight's show. I know I keep saying that, but there's so much more that he talked about there that you didn't get in that clip. There's a whole segment in the middle of that I cut out, or it would have been a 6-minute segment. He talks so much more and elaborates so much more on some of these questions. So check out that interview once this show is over, or sometime later this week when you have a few moments. It's about 30 minutes. I do have one other clip to play. And it was more about this move from USL2 to USL1. Like, what do we as fans, what does the city of Fort Wayne have to look forward to that's different about USL1 than USL2? And here's what Oliver had to say. Experience with USL1. What does Fort Wayne have to look forward to playing in a new league with new teams, with a longer season and a new stadium?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, you kind of said it yourself there. I mean, the new stadium being front and center of everything it's going to be a very, very different experience coming to a Fort Wayne game on match day than it is currently. And that's no disrespect to the current venue. It's a USL2 venue. You know, it's a a college football stadium. You're going to go now to a custom built, bespoke soccer stadium designed to put on a great professional level show. So not just while you're sat in your seat, but the surrounding area, I believe, is going to be like a soccer park type venue where you walk through the gates, but you're not in the stadium yet. You know, there's all this stuff going on around before you even get, you know, into your seats. So I think the game day experience is going to be very, very, very different. What else do you get? I think you're going to see a significant bump in the level of coverage. So you go from hopefully maybe getting on ESPN top 10 because someone scores from the halfway line to you are on ESPN because, you know, that's who's got the contract with USL to watch the games, you know, so you get national level match reports, fan blogs, data analysis blogs now on the team that's not as restricted as it is currently. So you kind of step into the world of crazy a little bit in the best possible way. The downside is, like you said, you don't necessarily get this always perfect weather. I mean, you got lightning delays, right? But like, you definitely don't get any snow, and we could see some snow at a Fort Wayne game next year. March and April can be pretty cold in the Midwest.
Yes, they
And
are.
I'm coming. I know I was in Texas and DC, which are kind of like very nice climate wise, but I went to school in Erie, Pennsylvania, so I know all my friends are Cleveland Browns fans. I mentioned them earlier and stuff.
Yeah.
So my first ever football game was like the Bills Browns. I paid like $9 for a ticket, and I was in the nosebleeds, and like my beer was freezing in the cup. So I've been there. I'm all about that. You're gonna get some of that too, which is fun in a different way.
Yeah. So, it's not going to be 90 degrees for all of those games next year. The league the season runs from late March to October, I believe, and maybe even later, depending on your run in the postseason. So it's going to be a lot longer. So those season tickets that maybe you've put down payment on, or you're purchasing here soon, you're going to get a lot more games next year. So we're looking forward to that. As you guys heard Ollie talk about, the move to USL 1, what stuck out to you and what are you most looking forward to?
I was speaking to a coach recently, and who knows more about the domestic level, and he said, yeah, MLS, they got a good thing going on, but what he's noticed is like the USL with some of the smaller cities, really, he's like, I think they're the ones who are figuring it out, creating a great product. And he mentioned Fort Wayne getting the stadium, so it's just moving onward and upward, and it's great for the local community, and hopefully just more quality soccer for more fans to be accessible to.
Yeah, I was watching, I think, late night Friday or Saturday, there was like a Phoenix Rising game against, and I'm just going through, I'm like, oh, okay, like that's pretty cool. Like, and I would chose that game over, I think there was like a Seattle Atlanta game or Seattle somebody. And I'm like, I'm going to watch this USL match. Stadiums were full, like there was a fan base, and it seems like the USL teams are much more grassroots, which creates a really cool atmosphere.
Yeah, I actually went to a Phoenix Rising game like almost 8 to 10 years ago. I can't remember, with Jack when he was really young. Pretty awesome. I think they were USL 2 back then before they moved up to USL 1. But yeah, there's a bunch of games. If you look through ESPN on the app, or you go to ESPN Plus, there's a ton of USL games that are on even right now. This weekend there was a lot. I flipped through a couple of them this weekend to watch just a little bit to see how it was. So yeah, the coverage is going to be awesome to be able to watch our game. They stream. I mean, there were a couple that away games this year that didn't have sound or didn't follow the ball, and so you're not going to get that with an ESPN Plus stream. So that's exciting. That's good for the team and for the community.
Yeah, that he did talk about that, I believe, on that clip there that I showed, is that ESPN Plus is covering the games. And I will say it's definitely a step up, but it's not always, I remember when Cincinnati was playing in USL, and they were on ESPN Plus. And so they showed it was the local announcers that they had in Cincinnati did a fantastic job. And I think Fort Wayne is doing a great job of getting the right people in the right places, including the people calling the games, right? We had John Ayan on earlier this year, or just a few weeks ago. It was calling games live in the stadium there. But to have a broadcast team that's going to, put the effort in and do it well for ESPN Plus. And I don't know how that all works now. That was a few years ago, if they still show the local broadcast, or if it's, an ESPN crew that does it. But yeah, it's going to have much more coverage. We're going to see teams from farther away than just this 3-hour radius. Fort Wayne FC is going to travel a little bit farther. I believe there's just like 14 teams in USL 1 in that division, and 5 new ones coming in next year. One of which obviously is Fort Wayne FC. So we're going to see a lot of different soccer from a lot of different places. Just as a preview, again, you can check out that interview later. As a preview, he talks about the level of play in USL 1. He talks about, again, his background, his story, what brought him to Fort Wayne, his experience in other places, what he's looking forward to being here in Fort Wayne, what it means to him to be here with this team, what a roster build looks like, which I thought was really, really intriguing. And he definitely said we're not going to be talking about the first pro signing, at least not yet, on this show. Hopefully soon we'll have something to announce as they play nice with us potentially. We'll see. They definitely have to announce their players before we can. But
did he give you any hints that he's looking at?
I mean, he didn't give me names. He did say they're waiting on some players to decide what they want to do. If they want to finish out the college career or come straight to Fort Wayne FC, which makes me think, again, I'm not revealing too many secrets. He said this on air as I was interviewing him. He talked about the fact that there's guys on the team this year that probably more that they wanted than will come back, because some of them want to finish their college career out that way. And so, but no hints as to who, what positions, nothing like that. We'll see how that plays out here real soon. And I imagine if they're waiting on guys to make some decisions, that they will have some announcements here soon. And so we're looking forward to seeing what that looks like. So
I did and not to give too much info out, but he did talk about the difference in European soccer and American soccer, and how an education is way more important in America than it is really over there. And so athletes put more of an emphasis on completing their education as opposed to going pro like they do over in Europe. So that was a really intriguing and interesting take on how soccer is viewed in our country versus over in Europe.
Yeah. And that's unique, I think, to soccer. We hear basketball players wanting to make the jump sooner, football players wanting to make the jump sooner. There's some rules in place that prevent some of that, but it was interesting to hear him talk a little bit more about that soccer players are wanting to finish out the degrees, maybe, at least currently in the landscape as it is now.
Listen, I work in higher ed, so I'm not negating that. I don't want people to stop coming, not at all. But yeah, I just thought that was a very interesting take.
I wonder, Paul and Micah, I'll just open this up to you guys. I wonder if we see that begin to change as soccer continues to grow in the United States, and there's more USL 1 teams, more USL 2 teams. There's more opportunities for guys to maybe break away and have opportunity to go pro at some level. Do you see that changing down the road?
I think we've already seen it change quite a bit. And USL has been a starting point for a lot of these players. Look at Diego Luna. He didn't go the college route. I'm sure he had opportunities, but I think he signed right away at 17, 18 with the USL 2 team. And there's been a couple, I think, I don't want to start throwing out random names, but there's some MLS players out there that started with USL 2, or not USL 2, but USL 1, and then they got signed on, and then they're getting national team looks. So I think it's a really good opportunity for some of these young players. Will it ever eclipse NCAA college soccer? Probably not. I think the NCAA offers, again, really good starting point for some good players, and it's something that's unique to America, where people turn pro at 22, 23 versus 16, 17. Just one of the nuances of the game here in this country.
Yeah, we're seeing the men's college soccer. It's very international heavy. So I don't know if this just creates more opportunities to maybe get some more domestic players back in, but possibly.
Yeah. And I wonder too, with NIL money and those deals available, if there is at some level more money for a player, that's a standout player at the college level than there is maybe in an early, rookie pro contract in a lower tier professional league. So definitely something to keep an eye on as we move forward. So yeah, check out that full interview live, or not live, but later tonight after the show. As we wrap up, guys, there's a lot of games to watch. Concordia at Canterbury this week will be a fun one. Homestead opens at Leo. We've got Carroll versus Leo later on. Dwenger opens next Saturday. And then we've got, the boys, Carroll at West Noble, Concordia at Canterbury. And that's the girls. We already talked about that. A lot of good stuff happening this week. I know there's a lot of area games. So again, if you get out to a game, let us know what you saw, who the players are. that are standouts out there. And we actually would love to get out there and feature some of these teams and feature some of these players. And your input will help us to do that.
I want to know if Micah has any trash talk that he wants to, since Autumn has nothing to say, she can't defend herself, she can't say anything. Does he have, I mean, this is your opportunity right now for Tuesday.
Absolutely no trash talk. All I'm working on is just make sure the girls have all the information that they need to be successful, put them in the right spots, and then we'll go from there. We're only the 14th ranked team in the state, so it's not like we're anything special yet.
That's at Canterbury.
At Canterbury,
It
5:30.
is.
Huh?
Yeah.
Paul, if we need to cancel PDA on Tuesday, so we have to go watch that, you just let us know.
It's the first day.
I know. I'm kidding.
And Canterbury is a great place. That is a great.
It's like the
great
friendly
stadium.
confines.
Yeah, great. Little cheering session right behind the goal. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope my girls are as well.
That's all. Spoken like a real coach that has real respect for the other team's coach. So well done, Micah. Well done. Hey, as we round out our show tonight, we have this extra time segment that we're going to give it 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes of extra time here to talk about this new rule, this time wasting for goalkeepers. There's a new rule that's in place. Goalkeepers have 8 seconds now to hold the ball before they release it. It used to end up when the play was enforced before, I believe it was an indirect free kick from wherever the ball was. And now it's being given as a corner kick to the opposing team. We saw it for the first time in the English Premier League. And it was pretty funny watching that play. If you saw it, the goalkeeper holding the ball and going like, what just happened? And the ref taking it from him and rolling it out to the corner. It was fantastic. A lot of fun. Your thoughts on the rule, guys?
It just has to be consistent with every referee. And that's my concern at the high school level, where we get different levels of refereeing depending on where you're at. I don't want to go out to one school and a ref doesn't enforce it, and then we go to the next one and then they do. So it just has to be consistent, but I'm all for it. There's always been some sort of rule in place, but it's never really been universally enforced. So hopefully with the emphasis, like it will be, I'm not a fan of any sort of time wasting at all. So,
Micah, I just want to tell you, it's not going to be consistent. Like, it just isn't.
What are you talking about? Referees are great.
Yep. We had a comment here saying that the high school is still second. So I know it's at least on the professional and I think NCAA level, but if it's an IFAB rule, that's something that may be adopted in the future.
Yeah.
I know from a clock management point of view, I mean, in the professionals, the referee has the clock and can add extra time. If in the college level there's a countdown clock, he can stop the clock. So those are kind of two different ways that the time is managed during the game. So that's all kind of interesting.
Yeah. I know the rule's still in place, but it's rarely ever is it enforced, at least in my experience as a coach, as a parent watching the game. Rarely ever is it enforced. So maybe bringing some attention to it at a professional level. I do think it will trickle down to the high school level, the club level, and we'll see it enforced at some level as we move forward. So
not U9, hopefully. We got a whole build out line we work with. We can't. It can take 30 seconds.
We got kids that don't even want to play goalie, let alone knowing to get rid of the ball at that kind of time. But no, I think starting at least like at a decent, like when you start travel, so that it gets ingrained in your head at that point in time is probably going to be pretty key. But I think it's good. I think time wasting is the most annoying thing about soccer, and I'm talking about people who don't like watching soccer because of that fact, or the flopping on the ground, that kind of thing. So I think any way that you can come about decreasing that is good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of time wasting, we're not going to waste any more of your time tonight on the show. We're over our 3 minutes of extra time. There was some, I think Micah twisted his wrist or something there. And so we added a little extra injury time to our 3 minutes. Thanks for joining us here on Fort Wayne Footy. We will talk to you next week after some exciting high school and college games happening this week. And maybe, who knows, we'll have some new Fort Wayne FC news as the new steel. I think the first steel beam goes in on Tuesday this week. So keep an eye out on their platform and all their social media for updates on Fort Wayne FC Park going into place. And we'll see you next Sunday night.